Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at 10 of your hottest takes in the early portion of the NBA season. As I have done with all these videos, I took to Twitter to ask y'all's opinions. If you want to be featured in one of these videos, make sure to go follow me there and be on the lookout. And also, while you're here on this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. And let's go ahead and look at some way too early hot takes. This first hot take comes from Zion, who says that OKC will make the playoffs while Shea will both be an all-star and an all-NBA player. I'm 100% sure Shea is going to be an all-star. I don't think that's a hot take at all. And if the season ended today, he might be on all-NBA first team with the way that he's playing, the numbers that he's putting up, one of the most efficient scorers in the league, a top 4 scorer right now. He's been incredible. He's also doing it on the defensive end. If you've been on this channel for any number of videos, you'll know that I'm a massive OKC fan and a huge SGA fan. And I've been saying for a while that I think Shea at some point will be a top 10 player in the league and be an MVP candidate. He's doing it earlier than I thought. Now, I don't know if I'd quite put him in top 10 because you need to do it for more than 8 games, but the way that he's playing right now, I don't see any reason why he can't be an all-star and an all-NBA player. Now, when it gets down to the playoffs, OKC's look pretty good so far, and there are some teams that I think will fall off a bit that are overperforming, but all in around, it's just hard in the Western Conference with the sheer number of great players and talent out there. I do think we can be a play-in team, but to make the playoffs and beat some of those tough teams in the play-in tournament, it might be too soon. If we had Chet Holmgren, it might be a different story, but then again, with the way Shea is playing so far, anything's possible. This next take comes from Aaron, who says that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, while the New Orleans Pelicans are going to make the Western Conference Finals. And I really like this take. I said before the season that I was a huge believer in this Cavs team. I put them as, I believe, my 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, and a lot of people clown me for it, saying that they weren't quite ready to compete right now, maybe down the line, but in my opinion, this team is perfectly built not only to compete now, but also for years to come. Donovan Mitchell has looked like an MVP candidate so far. They've won a ton of games without Darius Garland, who just made his return to the lineup. Mobley and Allen still look really good. They're incredibly deep. This is just one of the best teams in the NBA, in my opinion. And then for the Pelicans, another team that has had a lot of guys missing. They missed Zion for multiple games. Ingram just returned. But despite that, they've been winning constantly. They've been one of the best teams so far. And I've always said on this channel, good teams can win without some of their best players. Both of these teams have done that. And in my opinion, both have a chance to make a conference finals run. So I really like this take. This next take comes from Harley, who says that the Lakers, as currently constructed, can be a top 6 seed with Russ playing as their 6th man. I want to give a shout out to Russ, of course. He's my favorite player of all time, and he's looked great coming off the bench. He's embraced that role, been himself. He just has more opportunities to play his type of game. Last night against the Jazz, he had probably his best game of the season. Him and Anthony Davis looked like a dynamic duo. It was what I'd been hoping to see from those two players playing alongside each other, basically since Russ got to LA. But despite that, they still have to make trades if they want to be a competitive team out west. Maybe they could be a play-in squad, but unless they bring in some elite shooters, and they desperately need shooting. They're not shooting as bad as they were to start the season, but they still really can't hit threes most nights. And even when they are, it's not consistent. They have to bring in some shooting. Their defense is coming a bit back down to earth too. They gave up like 130 points to the Jazz last night. The Lakers right now just feel like they're kind of in this middle ground where there are some positives, but so far the negatives outweigh those. If they don't make major moves, they're still going to be a play-in team at best. This next take comes from Sean, who says that at least one member of the Nets' Big Three will be off the team before the trade deadline. I 100% agree with this. I don't even think this is that hot of a take. Maybe it is because, they want to be competitive, it seems, but in my opinion, this isn't going to work. Kyrie Irving, his whole situation, I think there's a real chance he's played his last game as a Brooklyn Net, whether he gets traded or just sits out the rest of the season. It feels like Brooklyn just doesn't want to deal with him and all of the drama that has accrued over the course of his tenure here. I think they're just kind of done. I think he is either going to get moved or just sit basically the rest of the season. Maybe I'm wrong and he does come back, but I'm not feeling too optimistic on that front. Then with Kevin Durant, he requested a trade before the season. I wouldn't be surprised if some teams start to re-engage them on trade talk soon. And even if he doesn't get moved right away, I think we're going to kind of start to hear some of those rumblings that the Nets maybe want to blow this thing up. Ben Simmons hasn't looked good, so one of my reservations with him getting traded is that I don't know how much trade value he has at the moment. He's probably at the lowest it's ever been, so maybe the Nets wait a little bit for him to kind of rehab that before dealing him because he's still under contract for a long period of time. And even if they head into a rebuild, he's still super young. So if I had to rank them in order, I think Kyrie is the most likely to probably get moved, Kevin Durant at the second, and Ben Simmons third. But I wouldn't be surprised if 1, 2, or heck, even all 3 of those guys are gone before the deadline. This next take comes from Kevin, who says that the Sixers will not make the playoffs. There are some reasons to be concerned to give Kevin's take some credit. James Harden is going to miss a month with a foot injury. That's not good. He's their primary playmaker, and he really is responsible for a lot of the offense that team generates. Tyrese Maxey's good, and he's been a really efficient scorer for most of this season, but last night against the Knicks, he really struggled not having a guy in the backcourt alongside him that can play make and create for him and take some of that pressure off. So we'll see how he's able to step up to the challenge. And then Joel Embiid has missed the last few games with illness, and even when he comes back from that, he's been somewhat injury prone the last few years. There are some reasons to be concerned. All of that combined with the fact that they've started 4-6, I believe, is now their record. But I still think they make the playoffs. The Eastern Conference is good, but when you have Joel Embiid, the second he comes back, the Sixers are going to look so much better. I think his early start to the season where he didn't look good isn't what we're going to see from him the whole year. He takes a little bit of time to kind of play himself into conditioning, and I think once he kind of gets his rhythm going, he's going to look like an MVP candidate again. Tyrese Maxey is really good. They've got some good supporting cast players on the squad as well. I think the Sixers are going to be fine, albeit a little bit more disappointing than I expected coming into the season. This next take comes from AJ, who says that the Magic will be a top 6 seed once everyone on the squad gets healthy. I cannot disagree more with this take. The Magic, they have a really fun rebuild going over there. I like Paolo a lot. He's been the rookie of the year. Franz is underrated. Wendell Carter's underrated. Basically, their whole squad. And Jalen Suggs has shown some flashes too. They haven't had Cole Anthony or Markelle Fultz for the better part of the season. So once they get those guards back, that also goes a long way to helping them, because I do feel like they miss a playmaking guard like a Markelle Fultz to create for himself as well as others down the stretch. However, when you look at the Eastern Conference, it is completely stacked. I don't see any way the Magic overcome their current really rough start to make it past some of those other teams. The Bucks, the Cavs, the Sixers, who are struggling, as well as the Heat, but I think will both turn it around. The Celtics, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Pacers have looked pretty solid so far. The Knicks, the Wizards. That's 10 teams off the bat that I can name that have all looked better than the Magic, and I think could still be better than them even when they get fully healthy. I still think they're a year away from the playoffs. This next take comes from Bryson, who says that Desmond Bane is the best player in his draft class. If you don't remember, he was in the draft class with Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and Tyrese Haliburton. Those are the 3 names that come to mind when I think of that draft class alongside Desmond Bane. And I would argue right now he's probably still like 4th, although if I'm just talking about this season, he's got an argument to have been the best one so far. He's shooting lights out. He's a solid defender. He's a better space creator than people give him credit for. He's able to create for others as well. He is really, really good. Desmond Bane is one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion, but I don't think I can give him the title over Anthony Edwards, LaMelo, or Tyrese just yet. If he continues to develop and get better, there is a chance for him to make that argument, but for right now, I think he's kind of in that 3-4 spot. However, just the fact that you can make that argument and I'm not immediately like, no, what are you talking about, shows how good Desmond Bane has been, how much he's developed, and how much credit he deserves for continuing to improve despite being taken really late in the first round. This next take comes from J-Dub Season, who says that the Denver Nuggets will be the next team to blow it up. I don't agree for a number of reasons. Number one, the Brooklyn Nets exist and they feel like a ticking time bomb, but also they feel relatively stable compared to some other organizations. Maybe in a few years, say they disappoint this season, next year they don't reach a championship or whatever they're aiming for, the year after maybe again, and then maybe they start to think about blowing things up. But I feel like Denver really kind of moving towards that rebuild is still 2 to 3 years away. When you have an MVP caliber player on your roster, you're going to be very resistant to blowing up your team, which makes sense because Jokic is one of the best players in the league. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are 2 really young, great pieces, and I still see this Nuggets team as a championship caliber squad. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. Like I said, maybe a few years down the line, but I think there are going to be a number of teams that blow things up before they do. Next, we've got a take from Just Average, who says that the Timberwolves tanked their future by trying to build this Twin Towers lineup with Cat and Gobert in the modern NBA. There is an argument to be made. They have not looked great so far, although I do think there is a lot of things to be optimistic about. However, I thought they were going to really mesh out of the gate. I went on record saying I was a believer in this pairing. hasn't looked good for me so far, to be honest. I still think they can figure things out, but I think it's just a bit too early to say that they completely ruin their future. Even if the Rudy Gobert thing doesn't work out super well, they've still got Anthony Edwards, they've still got Karl Anthony Towns, who are both relatively young. They could make a trade for another piece potentially. I just think it's too early to really give up on this thing when we're like 8 games into the season. And additionally, it's way too early to say that this trade was a massive mistake. Maybe it will go down as one, but so far, I'm not ready to call it that. And finally, we have a take from Hoger McBurger, who says that Giannis should have won the last 4 MVPs and be working on his 5th this season if the NBA actually voted for the most valuable player every year. I do think Giannis is going to go down as one of those players where we look at his career and go, how did he only win like 3 or 4 MVPs? He could have won so many more. Very similar to LeBron James, who was the best player in the NBA for like a decade or more. And despite that, he doesn't have nearly that many MVPs on his resume. However, that's just kind of the nature of the NBA. If we just voted for the best player every single season, yeah, I think Giannis would have won the past few years because in my opinion, he's been the best player in the league for a number of seasons at this point. However, it's not that award, it's the most valuable. And I do think you can make an argument that because Giannis is the best player in the league, he is the most valuable, but it's really subjective because last year, Nikola Jokic, without him, the Nuggets are a really, really bad team. Because of him, he elevated them to the playoffs. Sure, they didn't end up doing that much because they were missing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. for basically the whole season, and they also played the eventual champion Golden State Warriors in that first round. However, what he did for that team, the way he elevated them, the way that he carried basically the entire organization, I do think deserves some recognition. So I do understand why he got the MVP, but I also understand the point of Giannis has been the best player in the league. He should probably have more MVPs. The way things are going right now, I do think Giannis is probably going to get the most valuable player award this season. However, there's still so much time left in the season, so we will see on that front. But I do agree that by the end of his career, Giannis is going to be undervalued in terms of that award. And those were your hot takes. Go ahead and leave a comment down below and let me know your hottest take about the season so far. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say, and I'll try to respond to as many as I can. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. I appreciate all y'all's support as always. I will see y'all later. Real one, say it back.